Hi, this is Gary Dranow from Park City, Utah, and the Gary Dranow Show. Proudly broadcasting to you from Radio Evolve Rocks in Santa Barbara, California. Listen more and evolve. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gary Dranow Show. I'm Gary Dranow, and today I'm absolutely thrilled to bring you a conversation with a legend of club culture, electronic music, and pop culture reinvention, Larry T. That's T-E-E. Larry has been a DJ, producer, club promoter, songwriter, and a cultural curator for decades. He co-wrote the smash hit Supermodel, You Better Work, for RuPaul, coined the term electroclash, launched seminal festivals, and helped shape the downtown New York and global club scene. We'll talk career, genre creation, what's next, and how Larry DeVoskin connects with my world and you. Larry, welcome to my show.
Great to be here, Gary Dranow.
And let's jump right in.
Let's
Let's
do it.
start at the beginning. For
Okay.
listeners who may be hearing your name for the first time, which I don't think there's a lot, tell us about your journey, where you began, and how you got into music and nightlife, and some of the highlights, the people you worked with, and the songs or projects you're especially proud of. And take all the time you like.
Oh, great. Well, I'm from, I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, though I was born in Seattle, Canadian parents. And at a certain point, I thought I wanted to be a rock star. And so my parents said, well, if you want to be a rock star, you should join a band and give it a try. So I
Did,
did.
did they hand you a guitar?
No, they didn't hand me the guitar. They did encourage me, which is even more astounding. Is that they encouraged me. They didn't. They just thought it was a good idea, and so I joined a band, and they're called the Fans from Atlanta, Georgia, and they had produced the B-52's first single, "Rock Lobster and 52 Girls." But
That's
I know,
fantastic.
but they had their album hadn't come out yet, so here I was, like an 18-year-old in Atlanta, Georgia, joining this band, and of course when I saw them on the Saturday Night Live, I suddenly, my disco era was over because
Seriously.
they were so wild and so incredible. I went in and started working at the New Wave Club there in Atlanta called 688, and started my own band called the Now Explosion, which was like sort of a disco punk a comedy act. Not really comedy. It was music,
Did,
but
did
it
you
was
play an instrument, Larry?
I played them all, and we rotated instruments on every
Oh,
song. So the one that would be singing in the last song would play drums on the next one, and yeah. So we just, we were basically kind of untrained, inspired, I'm sure, a lot by the B-52s. The fact that they just jumped in and did it,
how
and
about Devo?
yeah, just saw B-52s and Devo this week. Went and hung out with the B-52s backstage, which was great to see Kate,
Oh,
Fred, and so that was nice. And but I loved all that era, the Gary Newman, Devo, all that early new wave just blew my mind. I just thought,
may I ask
wow,
how old you are now?
I'm 66.
I'm 71. So,
What?
yeah, yeah.
Unbelievable. Gary, I can't believe it. But anyway, yes,
Well,
so I started my own band, and well, we started
and
our
the name of
band.
the band again was
My band was called the Now Explosion.
the Now Explosions.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And
And
multi-instrumentalists.
yeah, we were crazy, and we just loved to put on like a backyard show, and we had themes every episode. And at during the time, RuPaul showed up into town, so we dragged him on stage with us a lot. And I made some records with RuPaul and some movies. We made lots of movies. If we saw Diana Ross in Mahogany, we would make Mahogany too, and she would play Diana Ross, and I would play the evil booking agent who tried to kill her or whatever. I can't remember. It was great fun. And then we,
So let me get this straight. So music, and you make movies as well.
Well, we did back then, just because it was Atlanta. We were bored and we had time on our hands. And I ran a club down there that had groups as wild as 10,000 Maniacs to the Butthole Surfers, all on my wild little pizza parlor club that was a gas because we had
Was
wild.
that Disco 2000?
No, that was called the Celebrity Club. And
Okay.
uh, and so we did, which we did eventually bring to New York. We piled up RuPaul and some of the girls in a van and drove our way up to New York, flipping the van along the way. We flipped it over on the interstate when we crossed the.
And you all survived to talk about it.
Yes, we did. Actually, we went right to Jim and Tammy Baker's amusement park in Tennessee because we were close by, and I rented a room at their hotel at their Christian religious theme park, and then rolled what was left of our van up to New York, and we just started from scratch up in New York. We lived in the meatpacking district with a who was kind of a now celebrated videographer named Nelson Sullivan, who captured all the 80s on a handheld video cam before people really had the handheld video cam. So he has great footage of
So a big
Warhol
thing,
and
a big thing.
yeah,
Sold it.
too
Yeah.
big. But he did
You
it.
grew up
And
in you let me ask you, you grew up in Seattle, Georgia, Atlanta, and moved into the club world in New York. How did that transition happen?
well, after a couple, the bands kind of changed a lot when I was working. I became a DJ on the side to pay the bills and ran clubs like the Celebrity Club, and I became a monster DJ. And at the time, DJs were not rock stars. I mean, now they make 30 million a year, but at that time.
Seriously, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I did a couple songs with Steve Aoki and Afrojack, and they both make 30 million a year, more than
Jeez.
rock bands do.
I'm in the wrong part of the music business, buddy.
I know, me too. So anyway, I got to New York and we started working in the clubs, and there's a movie called Party Monster, which is
Hmm.
which had Michael about Michael Alec murdering his drug dealer and the club kids in New York at the Limelight at a party called Disco 2000. And that's where I which I named the party Disco 2000, but I didn't really, I wasn't really on the heavy drug side of things, but I definitely became a drug addict running nightclubs, and but I wrote Supermodel for RuPaul in 1992, and it is the gift that keeps giving. Oh my God. Since they are
Um,
now in 20 different countries, and they use, the song gets used everywhere because of that. And it's it
tell me how that came to be exactly, and what effect has it had on your career?
Yeah. Well, when we first got there, we were taking whatever gigs we could get, and we got a gig to go do Fashion Week in Milan, Italy, and we got to see the Versace show. We got to go to the Jill Saunders show, and we saw all the supermodels and all that. And so when I got back, Rue had gotten a deal with Tommy Boy Records, which was a hip hop label at the time, but they just took a liking to RuPaul, and so they didn't have they'd made an album, but they didn't really have a hit. And so that I thought, oh, well, this is a chance. Maybe I'll get a chance to put a song out on a major label. And so I wrote Supermodel for them, and then she put her own spin on it. And it's definitely gone quadruple platinum now. It's one of those songs that everybody seems to know, especially girls. RuPaul Drag Race is like a comfort food for
Hmm.
for women, really. That's the majority of their viewers. Anyway, it was at the time. I remember when it came out, I didn't think much of it because the type of music I was playing was a little wilder and a little heavier and more underground. And this was just sounded like a piece of popcorn.
Well, I
And
know when I played one of your songs, my mini monitors were pumping out air like they were fans.
Well, especially once, as my music developed, it the sounds changed too. Because I really like music to me should change with the time. I don't really want to listen to music that could have been made 30 years ago, which of course is a problem now since a lot of the pop music and radio music does feel very familiar or like it could have been made 20 years ago, you know.
Hmm.
So, but at that time, there was a lot of influences coming all at one time, disco and punk and rap and house music all started, just coming at the same time. So there was like a banquet of options to choose and sounds to choose and vibrations to go for. You could go indie, at the time of indie electronic music like The Cure and Depeche Mode and New Order, they were really big. And then, but also there was it was just a smorgasbord of intriguing ideas in music. And I had the idea to do a song about the models we had seen in Milan because me and Rue had gone to all those cool fashion shows. So we wrote the song, and 2 years later, Rue was the focal point of the Versace show in Milan after we
Hmm.
went there 2 years later. So yeah, I mean, it was a
Did
good
he
start.
go down the plank? No, did he go down the runway to his own music?
I wasn't there when he went back, but I did see photos of him with the supermodels. And the ironic part is because the supermodels were so popular then, and they were so tall, but compared to RuPaul, they look like munchkins. And
Uh-huh.
because Ru is really tall,
Was he
especially
like
in
six
heels.
six?
Yeah, well, especially with heels on and in
Yeah,
drag, he's
yeah.
really, really tall. So yeah, I mean the song, it was a great thing that it was produced by Eric Kupper because he made it a really commercial vibe that and it just grazed the top 40, but it sold really well. And then it kept getting recycled over and over in every movie, and then sung by Taylor Kane in a teen Disney movie that sold 4 million copies. And
My
it's
God.
like literally it's the gift that keeps giving. It's gone and gone and gone.
Divine intervention, huh?
Yeah, it was great. And I mean, at the time, I remember the other DJs, the cool DJ at the time, it was like they were all doing kind of gospel house, with soulful
Hmm.
vocals. And they kept looking at me like I was crazy, like, oh, poor Larry, he just doesn't get it.
Doesn't get it.
And
Man, you got one on them, didn't you?
like
You've
he's
DJ'd
doing
at
drag.
legendary, Larry, you've DJ'd at legendary clubs like the Roxy Palladium, Limelight, curated parties like Disco 2000. What are some of the unforgettable nights for you?
Well, I had a party, yeah, called Love Machine when I first moved to New York. That was just a sensation. It was at a time when people still went out to clubs. So every week, the supermodels, Linda, Christy, and Naomi, would stand in a supermodel cluster underneath this light by the DJ booth, which was fabulous because all the kids at the time were fascinated by them, and everybody from Tom Hanks to Liza Minnelli came by. I remember Liza Minnelli came with the Pet Shop Boys to debut their collaboration together. And the song really wasn't the vibe of what I was playing at the club because I was doing a little deeper underground house. But Liza Minnelli, what are you gonna do? So I threw the damn thing on, and of course people enjoyed it because Liza Minnelli was in the booth. you
Hmm.
know so it was just that
And
it was a really great introduction because it was like just like a year after I got into New York that happened, and that kind of put us into the stratosphere to where really we could play anywhere where we wanted to go. We could work and we can get paid, and it put us on the map for sure.
oh, it's fantastic. Um, I love hearing stories like yours where things just happen at the right time to the right people,
But it did happen because I had been DJing in Atlanta, and we had any record I wanted to find, I could find in the Atlanta record shops because there weren't as many DJs looking for the music. So the access I had to all the cool music of the world, dance music of the world, and the practice that I had from working 9 at night till 5 in the morning for 5 nights a week turned me into a dragon slayer of a DJ to where
Hmm.
I could shake the change out of any crowd's pocket because the practice I'd had.
That's
So
fantastic.
we did well because we were well rehearsed and rooted well because we did movies. We practiced making movies, hilarious movies together in Atlanta. And
Name a few of them.
well, one was called Star Booty, and it was like an undercover agent of the CIA, and someone was killing the hookers. And so Star Booty was going to get there and get the man that was, get the criminal that was killing the hookers, right? So, of course, it was just nonsense. It was black exploitation, really, because it was based on like Pam Greer's movies,
Mm.
those guns and the wild early early 70s movies, so we had so much fun making those. We'd make all kinds. We even made a one that was sort of like a Mary Tyler Moore, Carol Burnett made for TV soft woman's movie called.
What was the format you were working with back then? 16 millimeter film or
No, it was just we just had a video camera and we would just point and the great thing about it is they're very watchable still, but we didn't even really edit them. We just said, okay, next scene, you're going to come in and your best friend is in bed with your husband, right? So we just shoot one scene after another and they turned out just wonderful. They're really funny and they kind of funnier than some of the stuff that Rue has done recently, where she's tried to be more of an actress. She's always been great at made for TV, but
and
not
I'm
so
sorry,
great.
I called Ruhi. I should not have.
No,
Big,
he's a he. He's an actor.
but
He
he's a
does that.
she.
Well, when she's in
When
drag,
she's dragged, she's a
she's a
she. Yeah.
she. Yes, but yes,
Beyond
you don't have.
DJing, beyond DJing and the nights, you also wrote songs, launched labels, created fashion lines. How did you see those threads connecting?
Well, after working in Disco 2000 with all the drugs and the depravity there, I got sober in 1997. And of course, being the king of the clubs and then getting sober was uncomfortable at first. It was like I didn't know what to make of all that or how to go from there. But then, after a couple years, I took a self-realization course called Landmark, and my project I had to do a project. So I remember thinking, what am I inspired by now? Because I hated trance and I didn't really like house music by that point. I was bored of it all. And I was like, God, I hate everything. But people started introducing me to electronic music that was sort of like the rock and roll of electronic
You
music.
you just brought up something that's going to bring us to our first break. We're going to take a 2 minute break. We're going to be right back with Larry
Hey,
T, and he just teed it up for me.
Now let me see your tongue. That's right, all night long. Goddamn, my tongue's long. Stick it out, let me see what you do with that. Like the way you licking it out. Watch me, I'm sticking it out. Everyone in the crowd just kicking around. Getting low on the ground. Too fast, slow down. Everybody gotta work it out. Bad boys in the front, just open your mouth. Everybody gotta work it. Everybody gotta work it. L-I-Licky-C-K, Licky Y. L-Licky-I-C, Licky K-Y. L-I-Licky-C-K, Licky Y. L-Licky-I-C, Licky K-Y. L-I-Licky-C-K, Licky Y. L-I-Licky-C-K, Licky Y. Licky like an ice cream cone. Licky like a mobile phone.
Talk to me about electroclash. Electroclash. The term, the
Electroclash.
movement, the idea. Uh, let's jump into that.
Great. Well, when I got sober in 1997, and I just wasn't inspired to go back to playing house music and the music that I've been playing before. I started looking for things that inspired me, and people kept bringing me these really unusual electronic music groups. Like I was working with these two girls, and their sister was in a band called Chicks on Speed. And I remember thinking, that sounds terrible.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, I was early in recovery, and so, but then I saw that they were in the Face magazine, which is a magazine I really loved. So I ran down to the store to see what they sounded like, and I loved them. And then another person invited me to see their group called Fisher Spooner, right? And so actually, me and Larry DeVoskin actually managed Fisher Spooner, and we're going to we did a deal to try to get them a music industry deal, right? And we got them a $2 million deal, but according to the contract, it should have been with a major label. It's just that this label was distributed by a major label, what was considered indie. So we didn't really get our payout from getting them their $2 million deal. But so there was all these groups that were really intriguing, and they were all electronic, but they were political. It was a strong female voice. Actually, more women got into the electronic music field than any other time in electronic music is when Electroclash happened. And it was in your face. It was rock and roll. It was political. It was nasty. It was really like a stick in the eye to pasteurized electronic music at the time, which was like house and happy house and handbag house. And
You don't know a guy named John Gold, do you?
John Gold, yeah. I don't know him that well, but
all right, he's just he's does house music, and I was just curious if your two worlds have ever crossed.
Well, yeah, it's funny. I never say never, because once I see them, I go, "Oh my God, John Gold, of course." But when I've done some people do geographics and move from here to there, and I've done demographics. I've moved from generation to generation, finding new music that inspires me, and running
That's
clubs
interesting.
and running clubs in Atlanta, then to New York. And then, after Electroclash had a really great run, it just took me all over the world as a DJ. Suddenly, after getting sober, I remember when I was getting sober, I remember thinking, wow, Frankie Knuckles and David Morales and Eric Murillo and all these New York DJs, they went on to making $1 million a year. And suddenly, when I got sober, the DJs were making 10 million and 20 million and 30 million. They were the new rock stars. And so I suddenly I caught a new wave. I pivoted, and instead of Electroclash, where I was kind of presenting other people's music, I did have some Electroclash, moderate Electroclash popular songs. But then when it developed into sort of a big room sound format called Fidget or Bloghouse, or what they now call indie sleaze, I suddenly started having these big hits. I had this one called Licky with Princess Superstar that everybody played, and everywhere. It was just huge. And then this year, 15 years after it came out, it went viral and got like 150, 200 million views on TikTok alone, because
That's huge.
People really liked the vibe of what was happening in the
And this is Licky.
yeah, which came out in 2007 originally, but then we put it back out in 2009 with a new remix that went huge, and it was like a #1 dance record. And but it never really went top 40. But people that heard it, it was so unique sounding that people that heard it remembered it. And that's why suddenly it kind of reared its head again and became viral. And right now, a lot of the kids are really into what they call indie sleaze. Like if you go on Instagram, there's a site called Indie Sleaze that has like 500,000 kids and taste makers, trend makers that really love that era, because that era of skinny pants and new wavy deconstructed clothing, outfits, and fashion is like back in again, of course, because it's a 15 year.
Everything comes around, doesn't it?
Mhm. And so now, kids that are playing Electroclash that have never even heard of the word Electroclash.
Well, let's define Electroclash for my subscribers, which, by the way, there's 717,000 of them and growing at 3,000 a day. So
Amazing.
you will get your fair play here.
Great.
So let's define Electroclash. And how did you come up with the word or the concept? And what did the movement mean to you back then? And what does it mean to you now?
Okay. Electroclash, like I said, was my coming back, being sober and coming back into the music business. It was my introduction into the thing. And I took a $75,000 loan from Chase to do the festival, which now Chase would not give me 2,000 to do the festival now. But
Mm.
regardless, it was a different time. And so I spent that money and threw the biggest damn festival with all the artists that I liked at the time. It included Peaches, Fisher Spooner. For early ones had Felix the House Cat, Too Many DJs. The guy from LCD Sound System, DJ'd at one of the events. It basically all the cool new, the start of what would be called indie dance or indie electronica. And the word came from me needing a festival name, right? And so I wasn't really trying to create a genre term, but I wanted something that kind of let you know that what was, because it couldn't be just called the Electro Festival, because electro was described, early craft work and early electronic music in the 80s. So it didn't really make sense because it didn't sound like that. It was sort of a mix between, electronic
New
uh,
wave, synth pop, punk, club culture,
house
maybe
house,
house.
and
Yep.
you could play it. Some of it was raw and rock and roll like Peaches, and then some of the groups that followed like LCD Sound System, and that they weren't a little more rock, but it was the basic was, it kind of had an 80s vibe, but it was definitely not something that you would have heard in the 80s. And so so
Gesundheit.
yes, thank you. And it had what the media needed to sell at the time, because music media needs a new story. And here it was. It was like wild looking. It had a lot of fashion. Suddenly the the fashion Karl Lagerfeld and Eddie Slimane at Dior were all, doing things with Electroclash artists and models that they would get at my club in Williamsburg. So I had a club called Berliniumsburg, because the designer of Dior said, Williamsburg is the new Berlin.
Berlin.
Right. So we called it Berliniumsburg. We'd never been to Berlin, but we called our club Berliniumsburg. And it was
Okay.
a sensation. And, everybody went there. It was kind of a gay club in a sense, but all the straight people went there too, because everybody got laid. And that means everybody came, and it became a sensation, and kind of the first thing in Williamsburg that kind of took off. Now it's like, if you're not doing it in Williamsburg or Bushwick, you're not doing a good club, because you don't really want to do a club in Manhattan. But so anyway,
Why? Why? Why don't you want to do a club in Manhattan?
it's a business. Manhattan's a business. It's like Wall Street. It's like
The
it's
culture just isn't there.
it's too tight. Yeah, it's too, it's too, you need somewhere that it's kind of trashy. Because back in the day, the clubs were in the Lower East Side, because the Lower East Side was a bombed out wreck. But now, apartments in the Lower East Side will cost you 2 million each. And so everybody moved over to Williamsburg and then Bushwick. And but we were like the first ones to really, the New York Times said that our clubs put Williamsburg on the map, or gave it its grooves back, I believe is. And that, what,
Mm-hmm.
Williamsburg never had a groove before we took it over. It was like a bunch of warehouses, and that where people would take their stolen cars to fence the materials off that are or prostitution and drugs. It really wasn't like, it never had a groove
Didn't
ever.
have a club scene at all.
Never had it really wasn't a place. It really wasn't something you really wanted to do. But when the Lower East Side and the East Village kind of got sold out, and there was no room, people just hopped over the water over to Williamsburg, and then that became the cool place for artists and designers. So it was fashion, and it was music, and it was politics, because at the time, I call it girls, gays, and theys. The theys meaning trans, non-binary people. It was just a moment where there where something new needed to be expressed, and so we opened the door for just a truckload of women to get into the business, and it didn't matter if you were gay or if you were trans. It was like it just the better self-expressed you were. It didn't matter what it was. And I love that democratic kind of principle. And to me, it's what makes,
I think you just invented a new word,
yes,
democratic.
democratic. Ooh, that'll be a hard sell in this climate. But but ultimately, I'm super proud about that moment, because it did open the doors for a lot of new voices. And I put out this one album of just trashy, nasty stuff with all my friends, that a lot of which were gay, called Club Bad. And so many of them now are on TV and in movies, and they're famous now. But they all kind of came from this one moment where I just said, okay, what's the wildest stuff we can put out that's fun?
Well,
And
looking back, what's the legacy of Electroclash, and are there any current artists or movements that you see as inheritors of that spirit?
oh, totally. What brought it back and why I'm doing the 25th anniversary Electroclash tour next summer is because Charlie XCX basically had a top 40 hit with a song that was very Electroclash, and her album was very much inspired by Electroclash, her new album, and the same with Lady Gaga. And nowadays, whether you're Ariana Grande or the newest artist of the moment, you have to have Chapel Roan, you have to have an Electroclash-y song on your album. It's just become something that they really like the idea. The sounds still sound so kind of fresh and crispy that people are now, it's become sort of a thing you'll have on your album, is an Electroclash kind
So
of
it's a genre,
so it's
or
a
it's more
genre
than a
now.
genre.
So now it's a genre, but it did open up the door for, they would call it indie sleaze now. So,
Yeah.
but it kind of opened up the door for, kind of a cooler, because electronic music became sort of mainstream. And it was just, it was a bunch of people that go to soccer games worldwide went to the clubs and wanted to be a DJ. So to be more underground, this kind of appeals to like the cool kids again. And the fashion that is happening now was very reminiscent to what people were inspired by the Electroclashers back in the day. Now, I go, wow, okay, this is deja vu. And of
What
course,
goes around comes around, so they say. We got to take another break, Larry. We're going to be right back with Larry T, and we're talking about Electroclash and all that follows. When we come back, we're going to talk about what Larry's working on now and what's ahead for the rest of 2025 and 2026. We'll be right back with Larry T.
Sell the garment, sweetie. an ugly business. You better walk, walk, walk your ass down the runway and get paid. Walk, walk. Modeling is an ugly business. Supermodel Incorporated.
It's New York, Paris, and Milan. It's Vogue, W, Harper's Bazaar. It's catwalks and the magazines. You won't eat it. Fashion week, she's got face. She's got back. She's got a boyfriend in a rock band.
You better walk, walk, walk your ass down the runway and get paid. Walk, walk. Modeling is an ugly business. Walk, walk, and walk your ass down the runway.
And we're back
and
with
get
the
paid.
incredible Larry T. And Larry,
Yeah.
shifting to the present and the future, what
Yeah.
projects are you excited about now? What are you working on for the rest of this year and into 2026?
Well, thank you for asking, Gary. I, of course, next summer, I'm going to be taking the Electroclash 25th anniversary tour through the summer, and then into 27, because really for Coachella and Glastonbury,
With Morgan Wood and the glamorous Monique?
yeah, whoever we can get on the lineup. We have been taking Princess Superstar, who lives out in LA too, on the road, because she's had a couple hits this last year because of the movie Saltburn. Suddenly she just had a huge one with David Guetta that she again put out 15 years ago, and it just that era now is very in. So, and she was at our second Electroclash festival, so me and her are going to be the main attractions, but we'll pick up friends from the group Chicks on Speed, or whoever we can get for each festival date to do. And that's
This is kind of
exciting.
interesting because I did a interview with a guy named David Bash,
Mhm.
and he's got the something underground. I forgot what it was, but he does a festival. So your Electroclash 21st anniversary tour is along those lines, where you're bringing in to multiple venues, or
Yeah, I mean, we'll do it all we'll start at the beginning of next year, and then do some through the spring, and then during the festival season in Europe, where there's just tons and tons of festival. They often have stages where they'll give somebody 2 hours to fill, and so we'll bring in I'll DJ, and I'll bring in some artists and entertain, some new ones that are inspired by the vibe, and then some classics that people know about. But and that I'm working on one of my new projects, which I think is in a weird way the new Electroclash. It's a series of tracks written by trans girls and one trans man, ventriloquist of all things. But especially, I've always loved civil rights, and I've always loved like being on the cutting edge of what's happening that's new. And I do think they're misunderstood. When people could actually get to meet some of the characters, the trans people on this collection, they would realize that, I'm sure back in the day, the Greek and Roman Empire, there was the same kind of people and the same kind of things. I thought we needed a whole album of talented trans people, because there has been a trans number one. Kim Petras hit number one with a song on the Billboard chart recently, a couple years ago. But it's just that moment where I think people need to, they stop needing to just what's the word? When they've got to stop hating on trans culture, because people are people. We're really all the same, and
Mhm.
and it's just that moment where it's like mixing civil rights with fun and sexy and clever and exciting pop. So for me, I have an album with just a hilarious collection. One from an 80-year-old woman named the Glamorous Monique
Right?
to to Valentina Moretti, who crossed the border from Mexico when she was 15. She's trans, and she didn't even speak English, and she's managed to become a techno star. So
Yeah,
for me, some of these stories are just unbelievable. And
that
so I
is
and so I just thought these are stories that need to be told, but the way to tell these stories is through something
to
that
get
you
them out
can't
there.
is make them irresistible, make it fun and outrageous and clever. And then, it's like the Trojan horse. You reel in the Trojan horse, which is a beautiful sculpture. And then once they learn to love the Trojan horse, they go, "Oh, this is not what I thought it was." And so it's just that's the same thing what happened with Supermodel. It launched Drag Race, which gave everybody a chance to look at a bunch of gay people and some trans people, and changed the way people thought. Once they got to meet these people on TV, they realized, oh yeah, this is great. This is like my cousin. It just changed the world.
Got a question for you.
Yeah.
How has your creative process evolved compared to your early days? And are there new genres or media other than electro sleaze, or I forgot what it was,
Indie sleaze.
but indie sleaze, right? Film, TV, fashion, that you are exploring.
Well, yeah, that's why I came to LA, is because I was living in Berlin, and I was saying, yeah, you know what? Nobody really needs a 65-year-old DJ jumping around, because they want their DJs to jump around and look like, rock stars now, because it's a dog and pony show.
It's a
It's not about
show. It's a show.
it's a show. And I get it. I'm right there. And but I thought, I wanted to do some reality TV. So I came up with some concepts that kind of brought together sort of a Eurovision meets the Gong Show, a show called Icons, where the music people could get the music, and they could see outrageous, interesting characters. And there's another one of my projects that involved music would be called the Hollywood Dolls, which is a sort of Housewives of Beverly Hills with trans.
It's other than New York Dolls. It's something totally new.
Yeah, it's not the New York Dolls. So,
No,
oh,
no, no.
but we love the New York Dolls. You know
Um,
that
your
you know that
fashion brand. How do you pronounce it? Tuesday?
Zhuji. I did a
Juicy.
fashion brand for 8 years, which was a blast, because I always did love how the intersection of music and fashion. And for me, I always liked the groups that were wild. I loved Elton John growing up. I loved the B-52s. I loved all the groups that were wild looking, and David Bowie, and I needn't tell you the fabulous ones. And but then over the years, when I was in London, because I moved to London and ran clubs there that featured like Charlie XCX would come and sing at our things, and so would the guy from Years and Years. We were really good at picking the talent. When I was there, I started doing a fashion line and got to dress a Missy Elliott video, Jimmy Fallon, the girls on The View. It suddenly what just took off, and I had so much fun doing it. It was like getting to live a different kind of life from being in a rock band or a music maker or a DJ or a club promoter, festival promoter. It was like a chance to use something else from my brain, and I love doing it. And I did learn that really fashion brands are tax write-offs for the ultra rich. They're really not, like, for the most part, money-making things. Fashion, it's about the sunglasses, the cologne, the makeup, the underpants. That's really where they make the money on fashion. And so, but getting to do fashion shows in London and Berlin, was like a dream come true for me, because I just loved.
What years were this?
Well, I would say I started my brand in 2008, 2017 or 2015, and then through 2022. And at
Did
2022,
COVID cause any problems, or did you
yeah,
sell right through that?
COVID was when I said, yeah, I'm ready to move on, because everything that where they sold clothes stopped closed shop for a while, and so it's just a time to say, okay, what do I really want to do now? And I was enjoying doing making TV shows. My first tests in Berlin, and I love the idea of reaching people through a new medium, and also being able to promote music through the TV medium. Because once we are inside, stuck listening, watching Netflix and all the different networks, I realized, oh yeah, this is really where people find their inspiration now. It's not so much from a radio or an indie rock blog. So I just thought, yeah, now's the time to explore some new things. And since I have been around in all the right places for so many years, through the Athens scene, through the Atlanta scene, the birthplace of contemporary drag, the club kids, the birth of the DJ rock stars, the electro clash, through all of that, I realized I am an amazing documentarian. So I've got a bunch of documentaries that I'm working on that I'm able to pitch. We haven't landed it yet, but I've only been here for a year and a half, and
LA for a year and a half.
yeah, and I've gotten several of my songs on a TV show called King of Drag, which is like for drag kings, and that was the first opening, and I feel ready to try to make more fun, unpredictable TV shows happen that include great
Fantastic.
music and new
And I
talent.
believe you will.
It's
How do
gonna.
you balance multiple creative outlets? Because you got a lot, man.
I'm really blessed that my life, even though it sounds like I have a lot going on, it weirdly paces itself so that I'm not overwhelmed. So I'll at the beginning of the year, I had a lot of touring to Hawaii and went and did a tour through Europe, and that was great fun. But then I really haven't been doing that much touring. So when I got back here, I was able to work on launching the 25th anniversary tour and work on some new music with my projects. And also, I also heavily involved with recovery because I think, it helps so many people, especially when you have a nut job like me at the meetings, telling an inspiring story that being sober can be great fun. But I also, I also had to, go to recovery around money too, because I didn't know how to maintain my money. And since I've done that, I just, oh my God, I've been so blessed. And so for me, I can do a lot of different things, but I need to keep my sobriety and my awareness around my recovery around all parts of my life in check, because that's where my strength comes from, is from my sobriety and my higher power,
Well,
as they call it.
that's inspiring. Truly. Uh, what should listeners, watchers keep an eye on? Big tour dates, album drops, film, TV projects. You were saying documentaries. That sounds like maybe something coming up.
Well, again, we're just now getting contacts here, the contacts we need here in LA, and it's getting around. We have a couple really brilliant pitches. If you saw them, you'd go, "Oh, I want to see
Oh,
that."
I'm going to see them
Yeah.
because we know somebody. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with Larry T. and
Bounce, you got that nasty bounce. Don't make my kitty pounce. Oh, bounce, little kitty, bounce. You got that nasty bounce. Don't make my kitty pounce. Oh, bounce, little kitty, bounce. You got that nasty bounce. Don't make my kitty pounce. Oh, bounce, little kitty, bounce. You got that nasty bounce. Don't make my kitty pounce. Oh, bounce, little kitty, meow, 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 nasty time. Bounce, you got that nasty bounce. Don't make my kitty pounce.
So this is a tale of two Larrys. Larry,
Larry
one of the reasons you and I are talking today is because of a gentleman by the name of Larry DeVoskin, who introduced you to this show. And I've been thinking about what I'll call the two Larrys, you and Larry DeVoskin. So how do you know Larry DeVoskin, and what do you see as similarities or differences between your creative worlds and his, as well as mine? And I'm just a rock and roller and a blues guy. So I'm a 71-year-old rock and roll blues player.
70-year-old young.
Yeah, that's right. As
Yeah,
long as you're playing, you don't get old.
No. If you do what you love, you don't get old. That's the great news.
I agree with you 100%. So talk to me about Larry DeVoskin.
Yeah, Larry DeVoskin. I love Larry. I met Larry in New York around the time I was starting to put on the first Electric Clash events, and we decided to work on some music.
So you guys go back decades.
Decades now, yeah. And so it's funny. I met him, and we worked on a song for Annabella from Bow Wow Wow, which was a new wave group from London, and
Sure.
And so we started by just playing around with that, and then we hooked up to work on selling Fisher Spooner, and we did. We got them a deal. We just didn't benefit from it, and but then we've kept in touch, and in touch sometimes more than others. But when I was in London, suddenly Larry was there, and I was like, Larry DeVoskin, what are you doing in London? And then I moved to Berlin, and then wound up here, and then Larry moved here near the same time. So I ran into him just by accident, and it's been really great to reconnect. And
what's the story of your first connection to Larry?
Well, I can't really, when I think about where I first met him, I can't really think of a moment where I said, "Oh my God, I just met a new friend named Larry DeVoskin." But I remember that he came to the Fisher Spooner show that we did at the Pyramid Club in New York in the Lower East Side, which was like a legendary a place back in the 80s, especially. And it was the coldest day of the year, but there was a line all the way around the block in the East Village. And Larry was like fascinated by, what this was. Because it was, and nobody really knew exactly what it was, because it was undefined at that point. And but yeah, he was up for something new, and so we became friends and worked on that project together. And he was also doing TV. He did a gay country music reality show that really should have gone. It was a winner of an idea of people auditioning to be the first gay country singer star, and but I liked his enthusiasm. And Larry is a hustler. He teaches me how to hustle, and I need that coach. I need friends about my age. I'm sure I'm a little younger than Larry, not much. And
you guys are about the same age.
Yeah, and that knows how to hustle. And he's just and he's great. He has so many interesting friends, and he's really good at keeping up his community. He throws little parties and introduces everybody.
He says community is everything.
It is.
That's what he's been teaching me. I'm locked way up in Park City, Utah, in beautiful canyons with aspen trees and pine trees, and I don't really go outside that much anymore. In your view, what traits or visions do you share with him, and where do you guys diverge?
Well, we do have an enthusiasm that is unexplained. You know what I mean? Some people have it, some people don't. And Larry,
a joy for life.
Yeah, he has an enthusiasm, a lust for life, and he loves community. He likes his friends, and he's always finding some new angles and some new ideas that are just brilliant. And he's a great songwriter. And so, he's like a role model in that, I need role models to show me every once in a while. He's very generous. He's hooked me up with a lot of his talented friends, and that's been really useful as I'm doing a publishing deal. And so it's just like I've always had his
Tell me a
back.
little bit about the publishing deal. I want to hear more.
Well, it's just that time where RuPaul has been on TV now for 18 years, and Judge Judy barely made it farther than 18. And so, I have a song publishing for Supermodel, which is closely associated with him. And I thought, this is the time. I'm not a gambler. I'm not going to wait till season 25. If he's not on TV, it may not be as valuable. So I just thought now is the time to do a publishing deal, and it's going to be a winner. It's a big deal because of my catalog is very relevant, and so that's really great for me right now as I have projects that I could use a little extra money to work on with, and yeah, I mean it's just the time.
Okay, well, back to Larry Devoskin and working across pop, club, electronic, fashion, culture. Uh, how important is collaboration, and how has Larry Devoskin factored for you in that?
Well, I mean, we need role models. We need people to bounce things off of. One of the things that, one of the biggest downfalls I see with people in their careers is once they get going, they don't have anybody they don't want to let on that they don't know everything, right? And sometimes you don't know everything, and you need, somebody that can guide you and talk to you about things that you don't know about. And for me, that's what he's been a great guide. I remember when I ran into him here, he said, "How old is that Supermodel song?" And I said, "Oh, it was written in 1992." And he said, "You'll be able to claw back the rest of your publishing on it after 35 years." I said, "Well, it's been 35 years." So then I realized, immediately he coached me into, what I'm doing right now, and
Getting your publishing in shape, right?
yeah, I mean, it's ready to go. I mean, the people that want to buy it can just look in and they can know what it's worth. And then, he introduced me to the guy that introduced me to my manager. And so it's like, he's just
He's a
totally,
bridge. He's a
he's a
bridge.
bridge. He's one of those people that everybody loves. And yeah, I mean, and he's fun. He still likes to, go out and see things and has that enthusiasm. Where do we depart? Well, there's not really that far that we depart. We're probably more similar than we are different, and that well, I'm a hustler too, and so I'm still curious about what's happening in new artists and making music and looking for a way to, I really like music that is relevant to what's going on in the world right now. I've
Well,
always,
don't listen to my music.
but I
But
appreciate, I love music of all kinds, but I love to, so like when I do these projects that seem far-fetched, they seem far-fetched when I pitch them, but then when they happen, people go, of course, you know, trans people as rock stars, it totally makes sense. It's totally new. But it has also a purpose. I mean, remember when Diana Ross and Michael Jackson were pushed
hmm
out front
Yep,
to lead
yep.
that civil rights and the difference they made by these gorgeous entertainers that when you saw on the Ed Sullivan show when Love Child by Diana Ross came on, or when you saw Michael sing Ben, you just it for your life was changed forever. Your whole opinion of what you thought you knew in civil rights changed the minute you laid eyes on these creations, right? And to me, that's like where music is exciting, where music, it's where when it touches you and you go, wow, I did not know, you know. So it's just that time again where civil rights is important, and it's
It
important to me.
it sure
And
is, especially in the climate today.
yeah,
Um,
and it's like, and you know what, we and that, it was terrible during Reagan era, not as bad as this, but it will go back to another place where we may need, I have a feeling there's a book by Wallace Wattles that said when the billionaires are no longer needed, they will be disposed of. And this was written in 1912. I think he said millionaires. And it's called The Science of Getting Rich. And it's a free book because it's been out for over 100 years. And some of this old wisdom really appeals to me as we deal with the political climate where you go, wow, this is frightening. How can we have any sort of impact on it? And then I go, hmm, there must be a use for these billionaires. We probably need to learn a lesson so that we can get universal health care and SNAP for people that can't afford to eat. You know what I mean? It's just that time where where the world needs to change, and sometimes you need a villain to create the change.
we got that. Um, how do you view cross-discipline creativity, and how might our worlds, like me, music, rock and roll, blues, lifestyle, uh, intersect? Tell me.
Well, it's like for me, that's where all the action is. I think for a lot of people, an Ariana Grande is kind of one note. If they weren't also doing Wicked at the movie theaters, or if they weren't on TV, or if Nicki Minaj wasn't doing the voice for the Aladdin's girlfriend on the new Disney cartoon. To me, the cross-pollination is where when somebody can do fashion and do music, and somebody can do movies, and Lady Gaga can act. You know, uh, it doesn't matter. To me, that's the kind of thing that kind of strikes me as interesting, is when you can take somebody from one field of arts and then spin them in a new way
And
so that
interpose them into another one, and they make it
they're,
happen.
they're writing. I really love self-help stuff. And so I've worked on a book called 12 Steps for Normies. It's about recovery, how to make recovery fun. Because all the different programs, there's like 52 different 12-step programs. They're all really effective. And people need to learn how to have more fun and to have a more successful life. So for me, like doing that, I can go from fashion. That's the 12 Steps for Normies is pretty much done. I might tweak it one more time at some point. And next year, I will get on it after I've already done my deal, and because that will bring more financial security. So I'll be pretty much set then. So just that time where I get to do fun things like museum shows with because I've got just a treasure trove of the most incredible art from New York and Atlanta, and from Michael Stipe from REM and the B-52s to RuPaul's handmade books, to I just have the treasures of
Of the culture.
yeah, cultural treasures that need to be somewhere where it's not, if a wildfire comes through this neighborhood, my whole collection won't be gone.
Okay, well, final stretch is coming up. We've been doing this, believe it or not, for just about 50 minutes. So the
Incredible.
final stretch will be the lightning round. If you could have only one DJ controller and one production piece for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, I love Pioneer. I know how to make the effects work like a top. So a Pioneer Techniques 1000. The old ones or the new ones? The new ones are a little sophisticated for me, but the old classics, Pioneer mixer and turntables, are usually great.
Yep. I had a Pioneer, one of the new ones,
Oh,
and I couldn't figure it out.
the new
Um,
ones are too much.
One track, yours or someone else's, that you wish you had made, and why?
Mm, you know, God, there's so many tracks that I wish I had made, but maybe.
Well, I'll
Uh,
give you 5. I'll give you 5.
well, you know what? When Kim Petras came out with an album not so long ago, it just sounded like everything I've been doing for 100 years. I thought, how did I not do this? And but I would love to work with supermodel Alex Consani. I would love to work with when I try to think of my heroes, I'd like to work with some fashion designers making music for their runway shows because my music is very fashionable. And I would love to I don't know, that's just off the top of my head.
Okay, that's great. Dream collaborator for 2026.
Kim Petras. I want to work
Kim
with Kim
Petras.
Petras. It's a no-brainer. I'm surprised she isn't on the phone with me now.
Well, maybe after this she will be.
Totally.
Which city haven't you performed in yet that you are dying to play?
Mm,
Or is that even on your radar now?
sure. You know what? Weirdly, of all the places that I've never played in Ibiza. And for a DJ star, that's unbelievable. So I definitely think I'll have to do Ibiza, Mykonos, maybe the Greek islands.
Okay. Um, I could go there.
Mm.
One fashion piece or look you wore that you'll never forget.
Well, you know what? I had during my club kid era, I had a reflective metal mirror ball vest with pants that were 4 different color bell bottoms that laced up the side with huge Japanese platforms by this Japanese guy named Koshin Sato. That was the most ridiculous. At one point, I roller skated. I went to a roller skating rink, this ridiculous outfit on, and it was ridiculous. I've not yet topped it.
Okay. I would love to see a picture of that, Larry. If you could pick one motto or lesson you live by as a creative, what would it be?
If you don't love doing it, don't do it. I think we're
Ain't
successful.
that the truth?
I think we're more successful when we do things that we love doing, and we age better. I mean, look at us, Gary. Come on,
Yeah, me at 71, you at 67. Look at this. And we're just getting going. My mom is having her 100th birthday on the 29th, and
incredible.
she is with it and just amazing.
I
And I
love
wrote
that.
a song for her in a video, which fortunately this will come out after her birthday, so she won't know about it. But Larry has actually seen it by now, I think.
I love that.
Final stretch coming up. We'll close the lightning round, and we're going to say adios. Larry, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your vision, and what's coming next. It's been a privilege. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. And where do they find you?
Well, you can find me at Larry T _Electroclash on Instagram or Larry T _Jerzy and also on YouTube. There's lots of YouTube clips where you can find my music and
You have a website.
LarryT.com, which is fire, by the way. It is. I must say, I have a really.
I'm going there as soon as we hang up. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to the Gary Dranow Show. Be sure to subscribe, share, and follow Larry T's journey. I'm Gary Dranow. See you next time. Larry, been a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Adios, Gary.
Adios, amigo.